The fluid flow in pipes experiment has two main objectives. The first one being determining the surface roughness and friction factor for three different material pipes, being PVC, copper, and steel. And the second objective is determining the valve flow coefficient for two different solenoid valves, being ASCO and Hayward, using the pressure drops that are measured. Note that this lab works with exposed water lines. Therefore, make sure to avoid contact between electronics and water. Before beginning the experiment, it is vital to gain a detailed understanding of the entire schematics of the system to properly open and close each loop for each focus material pipe. So to begin, we would turn on the system, and for example, for the PVC loop, we can see that the water enters here, runs through the loop, and exits downwards. Therefore, you would want to turn on these valves. Here is a more up-close look at this open PVC loop. Make sure to verify that your loop is correctly set up by looking at the lights of the system, as it should go from being off as shown here to mirroring what is set up on the control panel like this. Additionally, here is a proper pathway for the copper pipe, and here is the one for the ductile iron pipe. Once your loop is set up, it is time to open the main valve. In order to operate the pump valve, we will be using this control box. To begin, turn on the switch so that the valve actuator's blue LED light turns on. This also results in the control box's display turning on. If the green LED light is on, press the display button to switch it to red so that the control box is in milliamps. The lowest value for the control box on this setting is 4 milliamps, which corresponds with the valve being completely closed. The current generator has a range between 4 and 20 milliamps, with a linear relationship between milliamps and the percent opening of the valve. For example, when the control box is set to 6 milliamps, the valve opens 12.5%. When the control box is set to 8 milliamps, the valve is 25% open. You will need to take 3 flow rates for each pipe. Firstly, increase the control box values incrementally, recording the corresponding flow rates. Then select 3 flow rates well spaced from one another so that you have a low flow rate, a medium flow rate, and a high flow rate. You may then open up the main water valve. Once you have set up your system to your desired flow rate, you may now take your pressure readings. To do so, you must find the three-way valve associated with whichever material you are working with. You then must connect this three-way valve to the pressure gauge. In order to remove any excess air out of the system, you must bleed out your materials valve for at least 30 seconds. Once you are done bleeding and your valves are closed once more, you must bleed out the pressure gauge's valve again for 30 seconds. Then, take your three-way valve connected to the pressure gauge, turn the valve to one side to get one pressure reading, and the other side to get your second pressure reading. The higher pressure reading accounts for your initial pressure, while your lower pressure reading accounts for your final pressure. Using these values, you are able to calculate the system's pressure drop. When taking the pressure readings for the straight iron loop, as opposed to ones involved in the entire system, you must use the straight iron three-way valve with the same pressure gauge application and procedure, and when bleeding out the valves, make sure the exiting water is flowing into a bucket to avoid water spillage. Continue this process until all pressure readings are measured for each material pipe at each chosen flow rate. The final step in the determination of pipe surface roughness portion of the experiment is to set the control box to 4 milliamps so that the valve is fully closed once more. Now we will be going over how to determine the valve flow coefficient for the two types of solenoid valves. To begin, open up all the valves associated with the specific system, in this case the ASCO valve. Power on the system switch and connect the three-way valve to the pressure gauge. Once your system is running, bleed out all of the corresponding valves. After doing so, take your 2 pressure readings in the same way as before and repeat these steps for the Hayward valve as well. Finally, once all the necessary data has been acquired, close all the valves, power off all the switches, and mop up any spilled water.